Hello and welcome. You will not know this unless I tell it to you, but I've actually attempted this video all damn day. So I think I finally have everything set up the way it needs to be. I've recorded about 5 different 30-minute videos that have all had to go into the trash, but let's start here. Just to give a little setup for what this is supposed to be, even though there's a title below that should say it, but this is going to be my review of the Children of Anguish and Anarchy book by Tomi Adeyemi. This format of video reviews is something that I'm experimenting with going forward, but it's really to cover the books that I'm not really going to be going over in my book reviews written that are mainly going to be attached to the book club, just because I only have so much reading that I can do in a certain amount of time. But these are going to cover all the other books that I'm not going to sit down and try and research and break down and stuff. These are more of the books that I'm reading in passing that I have a lot of thoughts about, but I'm also not trying to sit down and really tear apart. I'm just really trying to chat. And this is going to be the first of them. Beautiful, beautiful cover. I love the cover. Maybe my favorite part of the book, honestly. But this book is a pretty significant thing because, for one, it's the 3rd book. I think that this was supposed to be a trilogy, but it's the 3rd book in the Children of Blood and Bone series. And it's been 5 years in the making since the 2nd book, or at least it's been around 5 years since the last book released. So I fully switched from teenager into adult over the course of this book being written. And so the buildup and anticipation for it is actually was quite high. And I will say that that probably plays into my thoughts on the book, though I also say that just to cover my bases, I don't think that it would have really changed much about my thoughts. But how about we hop straight into the book? I'm going to just go and give you like an overview of the plot, and then we'll dig into the specifics of the things that I want to talk about. But just starting out, actually, before we start out, I want to preface this by saying that I did not read the 2nd and the 1st book again before reading this 3rd book. Like I said, this is more recreational reading for me. And honestly, my perspective on the book might be better because I didn't really like the 2nd book, and I didn't like Inan specifically in that 2nd book. And I actually like him a lot more in this book, and I was able to forgive him pretty quickly because I basically forgot the plot of the 2nd book. But this book starts where the 2nd book ended, where there are a bunch of foreign invaders that come in during the middle of the war in Orisha. This book, essentially, with the 3rd book coming, the series up until now has been this big class battle between this kingdom called Orisha that's loosely based on like a past Nigeria, I believe. They have a capital city called Lagos, so it's very related. But I also think that while there are a lot of people that reflect the real world, I think this is supposed to distinctly be a different world, fantasy fiction, kind of like Poppy War. But the history of this series is that there are these people that have magic called magi, and they have silver hair, and over the years they were persecuted and magic was deemed illegal, and so there's like a royal family that kind of oversees a nation of mostly non-magic users that shit on the magic users, essentially. And so there's the big war and battle that happens over the course of the first 2 books, and then at the end of the 2nd book, while this battle for the land is coming to a head, these foreign invaders come in and they fuck shit up and they kidnap the 4 main characters of the series. Now, the main character, her name is Zelly. It's 2 sibling pairs that make up the main characters of these books. There's Zelly, and her brother. Zeli is a necromancer. She can use death magic. Her brother Zane, just a strong dude. And then there's her initial main love interest for the series, Inan, who is the prince of Lagos. So he's part of the royal family on the other side, because Zeli is a magi and her brother's related to her. And then Inan's sister Amari, who is the first person who kind of becomes friends with Zeli and starts rebelling against her family to kick all this off. So it's really this huge class battle between these two peoples. This is important. So we start at the second book with these foreign invaders who came in the middle of the war at the climax of it and end up just capturing all these magi, including Zeli and the 3 other main characters, plopping them on a ship and taking them away. And so that's where we start the beginning of the book, with them in the middle of like months of travel on this ship, having been prisoners, so shackled, canned like sardines, abused, all that shit. And this is, I feel like, one of the places that we first kind of see maybe one of the weaknesses of the book, because when we are jumping so far ahead into this terrible experience that Zeli and the crew go through of being imprisoned and denigrated and trapped and made powerless, we actually, as the audience, don't get to ride along with much of that. And so when we are seeing these new enemies, it's kind of like someone telling you why you should hate them instead of actually you feeling why you should hate them. Even though they do a lot of shitty things, and that's really the only way they're characterized, you don't really get a sense of why. You get a sense of why the main bad dude, the captain, is doing shit, but his reasons are very self-involved and not really large scale or applied to the society that's doing this to Orisha. So it feels like a lot of the discussion around it falls flat. But you're thrown immediately in. You see Zeli. She's had her hair shorn off, shaved bald, and then they melded a magicite crown onto her, which is this metal that prevents the Magi's from using their powers. And I think that this was actually one of the cooler elements of the book, because, you know, the loss of hair is very symbolic in African and African American culture to identity and self-power. And so her having that taken from her leading into what comes next, I think was really well done. We see her trapped and powerless and, you know, messed up, and she gets summoned to the captain's quarters. Apparently the Skulls, that's who these foreign invaders are called, the Skulls have been going through the ranks murdering them, of the captives they took, because they are looking for a girl with sun in her veins. Essentially, they're looking for Zeli. Why they know who she is, what she can do, why she's the chosen one, they don't clarify this throughout the plot of the book. But the captain calls her in. He opens up this chest and it has 3 medallions in it. Maybe compasses. A compass or a medallion. But he whips that shit out, sticks that in her chest, and it takes over her body. The magicite crown already limits her powers, but this thing, like, transforms her. She had necromantic powers before this. Now she has powers of, like, the storms and thunder and shit. And this is never explained either. I don't know if there's some kind of, like, mythological subtext that needs to be known in order for me to understand the relationship between these two powers and why it's what's got evoked by these foreign metals that we don't even know where they come from, how they're powered, what gods kind of power them, if there are gods involved at all. We don't know. All we know is that there are 3 of them, and he sticks one of them into her chest. Immediately she has this vision of this beautiful brown-skinned girl miles away in a foreign land, and she just knows that the dude that is the captain, his name is King Balder. She just knows that King Balder is gonna track down this girl, stick another medallion in that girl, and then harvest the 2 girls, Zeli and the other girl, in order to become a god. This is all told to her through visions of this corrupting medallion, and she fucking just believes it. I mean, obviously she has a couple questioning thoughts, but when you've been infiltrated